You've heard of try a chapter videos. This time, it's try a volume video. Hey everyone, how you doing today? My name's Kirsty, aka K-Beth Bookish. I apologise the light is behind me, it's not normally when I film, so I do apologise. Let's see if I can move here instead. Will that be better? I am obviously a booktuber, but as well as books and novels, one of my biggest passions in life is anime and manga. In November, December, while I've been at Ren's house, I read over 40 volumes of their manga, but there are still a few that I want to try, specifically ones that are the first book in a series. And so I want to try them before I leave in order to decide whether this is a series that I want to continue with once I return home. So what I'm going to do now is go through the shelves. I'm going to pick out a few that I'm interested in and come back to you with hopefully a little stack, hopefully not too big. I kind of want to go for about 20 at most. Even then I feel like that's pushing it, so I'm going to aim for sort of 10 to 15 and we shall just see how many manga there are here that I want to try and get to before I leave. Okay, I have my final selection. I'm going to try and get through this before my battery dies. We shall see. I've ended up with 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And I'm just going to very quickly show you what they are and tell you why I chose them. I'm not really going to go through the synopsis. I'll do that when I get to each one. So we have Kakurio Bed and Breakfast for Spirits. Chose it because I sometimes like ones where people get transported into other worlds. I kind of sometimes can like isekai. I'll give it a try. Breakfast with the Two-Tailed Cat because I kind of get a man and his cat vibes from it, but with a slightly more magical element there with the talking cat. Love Me for Who I Am because of Ren, who is going like this very silently in the background. So Love Me for Who I Am because of Ren and the queer rep inside. The Moon on a Rainy Night because it's one of the few that I looked through where they haven't infantilized the shit out of the women, because I am so sick of Yuri novels where fully grown women are drawn like 12-year-olds and then put into sexual situations. I just do not understand the fascination with that, and I get it's probably trying to like get men to read it as well as women, but I want to read sapphic fiction with grown-ups that look like grown-ups, not grown-ups that look like children. This is a very hopeful pick for me. Bad Boys Happy Home. I think I've seen this one before, but I don't really remember much about it. But who doesn't love two bad boys that end up living together, right? Candy Color Paradox, Opposites Attract. And it's like journalism and photographers, and for some reason I have a thing for journalists these days. So I picked that one up, and this one's like a boy love. Birds of Shangri-La. I know I've read this one online. I know I have, and it was me that said to Ren it was really good. Can I remember anything about it? No, so I'm gonna reread volume 1 to see if I want to go back to it. A Complete Wild Card, Thigh High. At first I kind of instantly dismissed it, but then I was like, actually I have read really wacky zany books that have ended up being incredible. Dick Fight Island. And so I'm kind of hoping this one's going to do the same, where it's weird and wacky and what the, you know, but it's going to hopefully be good. I'll give it a try. My Boyfriend, There's a Dog. Yeah. Crossplay love. So he dresses as a female so that he can talk to her, doesn't realise that she is also a cross-dresser. And finally we have one final boys love, which is Fangs, and it's like boy love plus vampires. That should be really good. So those are the ones that I've chosen. Let's see how many I actually managed to get done before I leave. Okay, I just grabbed one of the manga today. I went to the beach with Ren for a little bit and then I was like, I can't remember what I picked. So I just went to the shelf and the first thing that I saw that I remembered that I'd read was Love Me For Who I Am, as you saw from that clip on the beach of me reading. I finished it. I haven't yet run it through Corpal, but it's either going to be a 4.5 or a 5 because it hit me in the feels. It had a beautiful story. The author has definitely either is non-binary themselves or has just done an incredible job at not only speaking to the non-binary community and researching on it, but also treating the whole everyone within that kind of branch of the queer community, sort of the trans non-binary branch, with so much respect and care. And every single character in here has got their own backstory and their own reason for joining this cafe. Like, it would help if I tell you what the book is about. This is about a group of high school students who all work at this maid cafe, and up until Magumo joins, it's all been boys that have joined who like to dress as girls. There's one who dresses because he just really enjoys cosplaying as a female, but outside of that has no interest in being a girl. One who has always known that she's a girl but isn't yet ready to face the world as a female and therefore is still presenting as male, but working at this place means that she can express herself as she is. The owner is trans, and also one of the others is a gay male, but by dressing up and coming to the cafe and working there, he looks so feminine that he can be with his boyfriend without having any kind of stigma around that and having to out himself and cause trouble. They all have such wonderful stories, and I love that they all do. And even the one that recruits Magumo to join the cafe, it's his sibling is the one that runs the cafe. And he originally misunderstands that Magumo and thinks that Magumo is also male and wanting to be female. And he's like, hey, you know, you'll be accepted here. You'll find people like you. But after it's revealed that Magumo is actually non-binary, there's some discussion around that. They even have a discussion about the way they greet customers, because they usually all greet customers in this specific way that acknowledges that they are males dressed as females. And Magumo's like, but I'm not. And then one of the other characters is like, well, I feel comfortable and safe saying that, and I don't want you to take that from me. And it promoted this like really beautiful conversation that eventually resolved in a really great way. And yeah, I just feel like this has been so sensitively and beautifully written, and the way that the artwork is also fantastic. There's one character that right at the very end I was like, I absolutely hate you and I really hope that you get some comeuppance at some point. I come bearing 4 books for this video. I am in my last 2 days here in Australia now, and last night I was like, right, I've still got one of my One Piece volumes to read, as well as 9 books for this video. I was like, I gotta get my butt in gear. So I had like 3 hours and I just sat very quickly binged 4 of the books on this list, which means I now only have 5 more to do for this video, although there may be a bonus extra one. I can't count apparently. But we're gonna start with them in the order that I read them. First up, we have Candy Colour Paradox. These are both journalists. One is kind of the photographer and he's more about getting the scoop and getting that sort of the golden shot kind of thing. And the other one is kind of more about just presenting facts. He's not really in it for the scandal. He wants to unveil corruption, but he also doesn't want to like be a paparazzi and destroy people's lives and break into their private life kind of thing. And so the pair of them are very opposite. They have very different work styles, very different methodologies, and they get paired together by their boss, who thinks that they each have things that they could learn from each other. Along the way, feelings start to develop. One of them is well known for a bit of a playboy. Like the other one, the reason he hates him so much is that his girlfriend left him because she fell in love with this guy and decided he was the better option. Nothing says true love like falling in love with someone who doesn't even know your name. But anyway, she causes a bit of a rift, and when he realizes that actually maybe he is starting to develop a crush on the guy he thinks he hates, he gets a little bit of inner conflict. I did enjoy this. I definitely preferred the story over the romance. The romance in this was kind of, as I've noticed with quite a few boy love manga, it was a little bit all over the place. Moments that came like kisses, first kisses and confessions and things like that came at the wrong time and came sort of very out of the blue, and that's just something I've noticed in the past. But what it didn't do was get them together as quickly as possible to make them start having sex. There was like one tiny little sex scene towards the end, and it was pretty well done. It wasn't like super graphic. It gave enough to just know that they were doing it without giving extra detail. But I did have a good time. I definitely was more interested in what scoops they were trying to get than the actual relationship, and the characters themselves were kind of one-dimensional. So I have given this one 3.5 stars. However, I have decided to not continue this series. So we now have one series I will continue, one series that I won't. But not for long, because the next three I have much better news for, including my first 5-star manga for 2025. So the next one I read was Kokurio Bed and Breakfast for Spirits, and this follows a human girl who, she's always had this ability to see spirits, something she shared with her grandfather, who was very kind of like revered and powerful in his abilities to see spirits. He was also a bit of a ladies' man and a bit of a menace when he was a young man, slept around with tons of women, he had loads of sort of illegitimate children and grandchildren. And he also was known in the spirit world for being a menace. So he would go to somewhere, rack up tons of debt and then not pay it off and things like that. But he did adopt one of his grandchildren after her parents both died, and then went and raised her and was teaching her about spirits and the spirit world. And it's not until after he dies and a spirit that she feeds then claims her as his bride and kidnaps her into the spirit world that she realizes that he had an ulterior motive the whole time, and that when he accrued one of these debts, he promised the ogre, who is this guy right here, he promised him one of his grandchildren as a bride. So now she's thrust into the world of spirits. The spirits all hate her because of her lineage, and she doesn't want to marry this random ogre because do not let his handsome face betray you. He is actually a really awful person. So she makes a bargain with him. If I can get a job and work off my grandfather's debt, I won't have to marry you. He's like, good luck with that. No one's going to want to hire you. But she then starts to bond with this fox demon, and obviously he's a fox. I love him. And by the end of volume 1, she hasn't yet found a job, and there is still a very real risk of her getting killed while she's there and being devoured by these spirits. But obviously it wouldn't be a very long series if it did do that, so she's gonna be fine. But it did end with an accident happening and she gets a cut on her face, and obviously all of the demons are like, ooh, blood. So that's where it ended, and I'm like, I need to know what happens next. So this one I gave 4 stars to, and I will be continuing. Next up we had Birds of Shangri-La. I did have a bit of a laugh with this one because it says it's like parental advisory, explicit content. And I'm looking at this cover going, no shit. Like, if as a parent you see that and you don't think, hey, maybe this is inappropriate for my 12-year-old, shouldn't really be a parent, maybe? But either way, like, I get why they've done it, but I did have a little snigger at that. This is a story that it's set on an island where there's all these different businesses, one of which is a male brothel that's like full of different exotic prostitutes and workers, and it's owned by this like really rich eccentric man who calls them his birds. So they are like his birds, but unlike birds that get caged, they are free to fly. And the only sort of rule with this place is that no one is forced to work there. They all choose to be there. and working there is completely consensual. It's a complete choice. But it's also very well known that if you go there, you are only allowed there by invite because he has to trust the people that go. And if anyone slips up, they are instantly banished, never allowed to come back, if not half killed in the process. It's all set around this, and we start with our main character who, after his wife cheated on him, he needed to get away. He's kind of running from his life, but he gets this job as a teaser. So the teaser's job is to basically get the birds prepared and ready for their guests later that night. There are certain rules. There is no penetration allowed. You're not allowed to bring them to any kind of climax. You're not allowed to insert anything inside of them other than your fingers. And you're absolutely not allowed to fall in love. So we've obviously got Apollo, who's never done this. He is straight, he's only ever been with women. He gets teamed up with Fi, or Fee, I need to double check, I think it's going to be Fi. But he gets teamed up with Fi, who is a very experienced worker, but also has he had a very rough upbringing. And sometimes you see a trauma response in him throughout this with things that happen throughout this book. They get paired together to sort of teach him the ropes and initiate him. And there's no real signs right now of a romance, but I can see it's going to go that way, and I am here for it. The art in this is absolutely stunning. The portrayal of sex in this is beautiful. It's not got, even though it's a boy love and I'm pretty sure it's written by a woman, it's not got that thing of, you know, making it feel dirty and forbidden. And there was no point where anyone was like, no, I don't want this. Everything was done with consent. Everything was talked through. There were set rules and ways that you're allowed to behave. There was no kind of like essay stuff in here, which is quite prevalent in boy love. So I felt it was really well done, and I absolutely want to continue this. And it has some of the best kind of smut that I do enjoy. When I do read or look at smut, it has some of the stuff I do really love. So I am absolutely continuing this series. Gave it 4.5 stars, and just, yeah. And then the last one that I read last night, I had the most fantastic time, is Crossplay Love Otaku X Punk. This was 5 stars. It was my first 5-star manga for this year. I did not expect to love this as much as I did. I laughed, I did get a little bit emotional, and I actually found ways that I kind of resonated with both characters. So we have Hannah and May, only both of them are cross-dressing, and in reality they are Shumei and Hane. Hane works at a cafe where he can crossplay as a outgoing, friendly, lovely, warm, optimistic, bubbly girl called Hannah. And while he's working there, he catches the eye of Shumei, who is too nervous to approach what he thinks is a cute girl. He's too nervous to approach her, and so he decides to use his sister's makeup and wigs and dress up as a girl, because he feels like maybe I can be more confident to approach her and talk to her if I am also a girl. And so when he is as May, he's kind of like shy, reserved, quiet and gentle. And it's so funny because in real life, shy, quiet, gentle May is actually loud, obnoxious, starts fights all over the place, punk Shumei. And bubbly, outgoing, vibrant Hannah is actually shy, otaku, nerdy, geeky Hane. And at school that they both go to, they've had a couple of run-ins with each other. There's one day where Shumei smacks into Hane and is just like, get out of the way, punk. Hane texts May saying, Hannah saying, I've had a really rough day, and there was a punk at my school that did this. And obviously in male form, he's like, who is this guy? I'm gonna beat him up, not realizing it is himself. There's a really great cast of characters around them as well. Everyone seems supportive. Like Shumei's friend twigs after seeing Hannah that it's a boy, and he's like, I wonder if he realizes this. And then's like, no, I don't think he does. this could get interesting. And it was quite nice because leading up to it with the friend, we were kind of getting this vibe that it was one of those really creepy friends where it was like he's secretly in love and that he gets really jealous because like this girl tries to ask him out and he's like, oh, you have to understand though, there's someone more precious to me that will always come first. And she's like, absolutely not. But then as soon as he realizes that the boy his friend likes, that the girl his friend likes is really a boy, he's just like, this could get fun. And I was like, okay, so it's not going to be one of those weird horrible ones that I hate where they do that and they're like, oh, but I'm in love with you. And it's like, well, you've had 12 years to say something, mate. And then you've got Haname's friend who is also supportive, and then he finds out some stuff about his friend later on in the book that was really funny. I thought I was going to be rolling my eyes and thinking it was ridiculous and not liking the representation here, but I ended up really having a great time, and I am so excited for that moment when they eventually find out that they are who each other really is. I think that's just going to be so good, and I'm hoping that it's going to not be that thing where they go super dramatic and hate each other for it. I hope it's going to be that thing where they start to like, you know, it makes them open up more and talk to each other. We shall see how it goes, because there is no way I am not continuing this. So yeah, like I said, 4 that I read last night, 1 I'm not continuing, 3 that I am. So now that means that of the 5 that we've read so far, 4 will be continuing, 1 will not. And honestly, I'm kind of surprised because I expected this to be way more 50-50. I was expecting these 3 to all be not continues for me, and instead 3 were continues. So, you know, I'm doing well, but as I said, I'm also like, great. I don't know which one I'm going to pick next. Maybe with you guys I can do a random number generator. I do have a 6-sided dice though right here, so let's find out what I'm reading next. Stack of books, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and we have, that did not roll, and we have 5. So Bad Boys Happy Home is the next one. It's a few hours later. I've done Bad Boys Happy Home. I haven't run it through Corpal yet, but it's gonna be a 3, I reckon. I'm really torn with this one because some moments I loved, and there were some parts I was like, I could see me continuing this and really enjoying it. But then there's other bits where I'm just like, I don't like it so much. I don't know. I'm gonna have to sit and ponder on this one. You've got a 17-year-old who, he knows he's gay. His family found out, and him and his dad had a big old fight about it because his dad's, you know, classic like systemic homophobia kind of attitude, and he was like, well, screw you. And his uncle owns this like apartment complex, one of the units was empty, so he's moved in there, but he's got like all this pent-up frustration. So he was quite happy when he saw this homeless guy. He didn't know the guy was homeless at first. We saw a guy a little bit older than him who looked like a good person to have a fight with, and it's kind of become a bit of a routine for them every day having these fights in the park, until someone reports the other guy, 7, for homelessness because, you know, he was sleeping in some pipes that were there. He was like putting his laundry out overnight and using the bathrooms to do his laundry and stuff, and he got reported. So Akamatsu was like, hey, well, there's room in my place, come stay with me. So that's kind of like the premise of this, is these guys fighting. It was a little bit sloppy at first, it was a little bit clumsy, the introduction of them and that fighting, but once we got further into the story and we started to get some of Akamatsu's background, and we got some of Seven's background where it looks like he's on the run from, like, it looks like he used to be in a gang or something, like in the Yakuza or something like that. He's now tried to like get away and better his life, and they're looking for him. So he's effectively on the run, and he's now using Akamatsu's place as like his cover to hide, but not told him yet. And yeah, we've kind of had a hint that, because like at one point he's like, hey, I will help you with your tension and I'll help ease that. And he's like, hey, you're better than anyone else I've ever been with. And the other guy, Akamatsu's like, what do you mean by that? What's he on about? So I think there's going to be like, you know, he had to do stuff he maybe didn't want to do to get by. But obviously it freaks Akamatsu out because it's the first kind of sexual experience he's had with a guy. And so he freaks out. And then Seven learns about Akamatsu being gay and he's like, oh shit, I messed up, I'm sorry. And it prompted a conversation between them, so I was glad that it wasn't like, you know, forced and it didn't go any further while one of them was still unsure. But I'm glad that instead of it being like a big deal, they sat and they talked about it. So yeah, I'm on the fence whether or not I want to continue this one, because it was quite random, but I also do appreciate that it seems like there's a proper developing story with this. I might give the second one a try just to see if it is worth continuing. But this one, I say 3, but now that I've talked about it a little bit more and thought about it, it's probably going to be either a 3.5 or a 4. So I'm going to run it through Corpile. I will put it up here what I gave it. And this one's a tentative yes. It's not an absolute I want to continue, but it is a I would like to at least try the next one just to see if it's a series that would work for me or not. So yeah, but it does mean I've got another one to choose. So as always, I'll do it on the third one. So 1, 2, 3, number 4. Number 4 is going to be this one. The Moon on a Rainy Night, which looks sapphic and looks like Yuri. So we shall see if I enjoy it.
I don't think you will. Because it's sapphic.
No, not no,
because it's Yuri. It's that specific genre of manga that I don't typically like.
Yes.
I knew what you meant, but it was like, that sounded so homophobic. Like, what the? I started reading this on the beach because I leave in 2 days. So today we were like, let's try and get a little bit more beach time in, because I don't know if I'm going to get to the beach tomorrow or Thursday. We shall see. It will be nice. But if we don't, I wanted to do one more beach day, and we did. Well, beach trip, and we did. And I started this, but it was really windy, so we ended up coming home, and that's when I read it. But I have given The Moon on a Rainy Night by Kazushiro, I have given this 4 stars. We have a hard of hearing main character, and as we know, I've read A Sign of Affection, and well, I'm partway through A Sign of Affection, and I think I'm up to date with I Hear the Sunspot. And both are stories that follow hard of hearing or deaf main characters. The thing with this one, I said to Ren, I felt like there was something a little less warm. It felt more generic and a little bit kind of just as if someone's done a bit of Googling and then used that information in the book. And I did find like the author note, it just had a list of like references that they'd used. With the other stories, they felt like they had a bit more heart and a little bit more genuine feeling about them, and it felt like they were a bit more sensitive and focused on the character with the hearing problems. And you can tell the authors had had a lot of extensive research, not only by looking at third-party sources but also by gathering their own research by talking to the deaf community. I feel like this author is wanting to include deaf rep but hasn't really done that same level of research. I could be wrong, and it might get better in future books, but it just felt like the character in the deaf rep was very kind of lacking, and what was there felt like it was just very surface level. But I'm hoping that because this is just the first book and we are just meeting the characters and getting to know them and they're getting to know each other, I'm hoping that that's all that is that it's just a little bit of teething clumsiness and that we will get more from it later on. But I thought this was a very cute start. You've got Saki, who is upset one day. She's on her way to a piano lesson and she bumps into this really cute girl. She's kind of like flustered and thrown off by that, and then she finds out that her piano teacher is retiring because she's about to have a baby and get married, and that puts her into a bit of a tailspin. It's kind of hinted at that maybe it was less about the piano and more about the teacher that she kept her lessons going for quite so long, when everyone seems to comment about how it's unusual for someone to still be playing piano that late. Normally they stop in middle school, and this is now a high schooler. So yeah, we do kind of get that vibe and that idea that maybe it's more about the teacher. The teacher's like, I'll introduce you to someone else, a new teacher. She then starts high school, and who does she discover is in her class but the really cute girl from that night, Canon, who turns out to be hard of hearing. And Canon at first is like, I don't need any help, I don't really want people to talk to me, I just want to be left alone, just let people get on with it. There are members in the class who are kind of like, oh, she's got a really shitty attitude because of that. One of them said something like, deaf people and disabled people are always playing the pity me card so that they get things, and I was livid at that because that is such a crappy way of looking at it. And Saki was like, oh, they don't mean anything bad by saying that. And I'm like, yes, they do. That is a really horrible way to talk about people. But she does eventually stand up. But by the end of the book, Canon and Saki have developed a really good friendship. It turns out that the new teacher for piano that Saki has is Canon's own mother. And so that helps them bond even more. And then by the end of it, Saki has started to make some other friends, and they come over and they start to make an effort to talk to Canon. So it has been very cute and very beautiful. But like I said, there's just something, there's a little bit of heart not present in this that I have seen in other books and manga that have included deaf rep. I did have a really good time. I thought it was really sweet. I loved the art. It's definitely a 4-star, and it's another one going on to the continue pile. But that means that we are now down to our final 4. 1, 2, 4. Okay, number 4. That is Breakfast with My Two-Tailed Cat. I have very high hopes for this one. Fingers crossed for a 5-star. Another one done, and another 5-star, and definitely one I want to continue. This is Breakfast with My Two-Tailed Cat. This is definitely one that falls into that kind of cozy, wholesome slice of life where it is literally just little snippets of life with these two characters. We've got Soichiro, who retired with his wife to the countryside because she wanted somewhere that was like really beautiful and wide open. Only within a year of moving there, she died. He was obviously going to be lonely and alone, so their cat, who was also quite old, and was saying to him at one point, I was also a grandpa and I nearly chose to go with mum, but I realised you would be alone, so instead I turned into this yokai, which is a demon technically. But basically the cat decided it didn't want to leave its dad because he knew that his dad would be all alone if he did. And so not only to be able to comfort his dad, but also to be able to stay with him longer, he transformed into this two-tailed cat and became a giant cat. And now he can talk, he can sort of eat foods that he couldn't eat before, and he is essentially a human but is a cat. And it is so cute because the only thing that I struggled with was how anyone they meet who meets him instantly just accepts him. No one's kind of freaked out, no one's been like, what the hell? But as the guy says at one point, it's like, well, typical country folk behaviour. Like, so I do know that in a lot more sort of countryside areas and more rural areas of Japan, it's more accepted that demons and yokai are real, and people do have more of a belief in spirits and things. So, but I would still be a little bit freaked out if a talking 7-foot cat walked up to me. I'd be like, what? But yeah, it was so cute and wholesome. I love the way the cat talks. It's not as bad as A Man and His Cat, where it's like every other word has like a sort of meow kind of thing. But it does have, like this one, Nee does have his own little way of talking about things, which is so cute. And he still has cat behaviours, like bringing his daddy a little gift, which was a snake skin. That was really cute. But I love the drawing. You can tell that the main character is an older man. like not old, but you can definitely tell from the style and the drawing. Like he's got wrinkles, he's got sort of older skin, he's a bit older, and that's nice because sometimes a lot of, and I know it's a thing with manga in general where ages can be really hard to define, but I feel like this guy actually looks like someone who, you know, is in his 60s, maybe even sort of coming into his 70s. I'm not gonna miss you, but at least you're not a cockatoo. Actually, I think you're more annoying than the cockatoo. At least the cockatoo just screamed every now and again. That one just doesn't shut up. Anyway, this is not a rant about birds. So yeah, on vibes and wholesomeness, I'm giving this 5 stars. I can see it not go, like, I don't know how many volumes this is, but it was starting to feel a bit repetitive at the end, especially as we'd had the full year and we'd cycled back to autumn. And it did kind of, it all revolved around food, which, as we know, I do love food manga, but I feel like it does need a little bit more. And with this one, I feel like it just needs a little bit more interaction with him and other humans, because there are a few moments, but 80% to 90% of the book is him and the cat eating meals together and reflecting on his wife and stuff, which was fine, but I can see if it goes on for like 2 or 3 volumes, that will get very tedious very quickly. So I'm definitely going to continue this one, and we shall see how we get on with that. But it means that I still have 3 more to go. I've no issues. I will get, it's like not even 11 o'clock in the morning right now. I have no worries about getting all these 3 done. The 3 that I have left are a boy love manga, a comedy, funny high school drama, and a boy love manga. So I'm going to read them in this order so that I can sort of break it up, because if I read too much like boy love in one go, then I find that I struggle. So I'm going to read them in this order. So Fangs will be the next book that I read, and it's also the biggest one to read. It's going to take me a couple of hours with editing on top. So we're going to get on and do this. A very quick editing, Kirsty, because it is 1:30 in the morning, so I don't want to be talking for too long or too loud. I don't know what happened. Either I just did not press record, or somewhere, somehow, I have deleted a whole bunch of clips that should have gone into this vlog, and for some reason those clips have disappeared. So as a result, the last 3 manga, 2 of them are completely missing, and 1 of them I have lost the first half. So very, very quickly, Thigh High, I ended up DNFing. It was just a bit too ludicrous, a bit too out there, and I just could not get behind it, and it was making me uncomfortable, so I very quickly DNF'd that and decided to move on. My Boyfriend is a Dog was uncomfortable for other reasons, like it didn't fully go into like furry territory, but it went far enough in that I was like, not sure. But it did also have some really fluffy, cute, wholesome moments. So for that reason, I have decided I am going to go on to volume 2. But like a few of the other ones, I'm going to give it volume 2 to see if this is a series, because I don't think 1 volume is enough to judge whether it's a series for me. Sometimes, like with anime and stuff, it can take 3, 4, even 5 episodes for me to really get into the story. Sometimes I know immediately that it's not for me, but quite often it will take me half a season before I'm like, yes, this is amazing. So I'm just going to do that. And then finally for Fangs, this one, I was in the process of talking about it and I had an amazing time with it. I really liked the lore and the world building in it and the actual act of vampirism. And when the next clip starts, I am talking about 1 vampire in particular because it really dealt with mental health very heavily. And there was 1 vampire in particular who was quite suicidal and had lost his reason to live. Only his pet tortoise was keeping him alive because it gave him purpose. So the vampires around him were trying to find ways to sort of bring him back to reality and to life, pardoning the pun, being he is a vampire. But that's where I will be coming in. So I am so sorry, and I was being so careful to not delete the wrong things and yet still managed to lose clips. Thankfully, now that I'm home, everything's a lot calmer. I'm not rushing to get videos out, and I've been very strict on if I'm filming on one card, I fill that card before I record, and I record all the clips for a vlog on the same card, which I think is where my problem was. I was just recording things on any card and hoping for the best. Doesn't work. Anyway, let's go to the next clip. Let's wrap this up. So sorry, and thank you so much for watching. And everyone's sort of trying to encourage him to see that there's still things to live for, and he's now getting to that stage where he's starting to realize it. There's also like an emotional support group that is run by a vampire, and I loved him and his dynamic as well, because he is still married to the woman that he was married to before he was turned. That was really sweet, where, you know, his son is now an old man, his wife is an elderly woman, and he still looks sort of like he's in his 20s, but he still loves them unconditionally. And I just thought that was so beautiful, because it is a question that I think about sometimes when you've got vampire human pairings. Is like, well, what are they going to do when the human gets old? Are they just going to stay with them unwaveringly, or are they going to go off someone younger? And I really like this one, and it was saying that he occasionally has plastic surgery to change his features so that people don't suspect that he is a vampire, and so and the people around them don't like go, wow, he's been around for a long time and hasn't changed. So I just thought that was so well done. And yeah, I had a great time. A couple of things weren't overly explained very well. And again, the romance went similarly to a couple of other things that I've read. It kind of felt like the romance almost came cut in at the wrong moment, and it sort of took away from the overall story. But I am enjoying it. I don't yet know, reading this, I can't see if there's going to be an overarching story, or if this is going to focus just more on the romance and the day-to-day stuff. But I'm definitely going to keep going. I definitely want to give the second one a go, because I would like to see if something is going to come in later, and if it does, I'm excited to see what that's going to be, because I could see this getting quite dark, and I am here for it. Because if I'm going to read something about vampires, it has to be dark. I don't like light and fluffy, like almost cartoony type vampire stories. I also don't like sort of the emo, angsty, dramatic vampire stories. I like the dark, seductive, luscious stories, and that's what I think this one could go into. So I'm definitely going to keep that one going. And I gave this one 4.5 stars, as I've already said. So that is it. Those are all the books that I read. Of the 11 that I ended up reading, Thigh High is a DNF. I won't be continuing. Candy Color Paradox, also I finished, but I won't be continuing. Which then means that I do now have 9 new series that I can and will continue. So we have My Boyfriend is a Dog, we have Fangs, Breakfast with My Two-Tailed Cat, and Bad Boys Happy Home. These 4 I want to continue, but I want to continue just to the second volume to see if it is a series I'm going to commit to. And then there are 5 that are absolute going to continue, would like to finish the series. Kukurio, Bed and Breakfast for Spirits, Crossplay Love, Otaku X Punk, The Birds of Shangri-La, The Moon on a Rainy Night, and Love Me for Who I Am. All of these are ones that I would like to continue. This was quite a successful experiment. It also meant I got an incredibly good head start for my manga reading for the year. At the moment, as of filming, I've had other manga that I've read, because I've read a ton of One Piece as well. But it does mean that currently I have read 22 manga or graphic novels in January, which is a very good start, considering I don't have much manga like physically at home and will need to rely more on online sources, which I don't really like doing. So, you know, at least I can have a couple of months off manga for a bit, so I can try over February, March, April. I'm gonna order some books and buy some manga and replenish my stocks a bit. But it was a fantastic start, and like I said, I've now got 9 new series that I can work towards, and hopefully some all-time favourites will end up being in here. Who knows? I've definitely had a fantastic time with manga in my time here in Australia. I've read, I think, 60-something manga since I got here, and I've now got 2 or 3 new all-time favourite series out of that, which is fantastic. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please let me know in the comments if you have read any of these, which was your favourite. And if there are any of these you haven't read, have I convinced you to try any of them from what I've talked about? Let me know in the comments. I always love to hear your thoughts. In the meantime, I hope you're all good. I hope you're staying safe. Don't forget to check out my Patreon and Etsy that are both linked below, and both have very exciting updates coming soon. And I will see you on the next one. Bye!